Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second section of the Introduction to Quest video series. In this section, I'll be showing you how you can interact with Quest alongside the high-level view of the Quest infrastructure. When you think about how to access Quest, you might imagine that it looks something like this. You as a user getting on your personal computer and then running your jobs on the compute nodes on Quest. As a quick refresher from our last video, the term job here refers to a prepackaged sequence of commands. Now, this diagram is not entirely wrong, but there are actually a couple of steps that come in between here. And those steps are that you will first log in to the login nodes and then submit your jobs to a special node called the scheduler. The scheduler is the one that then runs your jobs on the compute nodes on Quest. So first, let's go over what a scheduler is. A scheduler is something that is often used in HPC systems to manage and prioritize the execution of jobs. As you can imagine, Quest receives thousands of job submissions from researchers all across Northwestern every day. The scheduler's main task is to check the priority and requirements of those jobs that it receives and allocate the computational resources to them. This ensures that all users on Quest get their fair access to the computing resources. So this is why when you submit your jobs to Quest, you need to tell the scheduler how much computational resources you need, based on things like how many cores you need, how much memory you need, and how much time your job is going to take. The scheduler allocates the resources accordingly. A quick note here is that the specific type of scheduler that Quest uses is called Slurm. So the term scheduler and Slurm might be used interchangeably in this context. Okay, so now that we've looked at the scheduler, let's focus our attention on the login nodes. You might be wondering what they are there for. The login nodes act as a landing point for users, and you can perform simple tasks on them, like editing files or some light troubleshooting. The characteristics of the login nodes that is good to keep in mind is that on these nodes, every user is limited to 4 CPUs and 4 gigabytes of memory, so you can't run anything that takes a lot of resources. It's also good to keep in mind that the login nodes are constantly being shared by many users, meaning that there are several people using that same computer that you're on at any given time. All right, so now that we've looked at the scheduler and the login nodes, let's focus our attention on the compute nodes. The one thing that I want you to take away from this part is that there are various technical specifications of compute nodes at Quest. If we take the regular compute nodes as an example, there are actually 3 different generations of nodes, namely Quest 9s, Quest 10s, and Quest 11s. The reason why we have these different generations is that at Quest, we are constantly phasing in new computers that are state-of-the-art, and we're constantly phasing out computers that become outdated. Here's a table showing the specs for each of the generations of nodes. You can see that the number of cores vary from 40 to 64, and the total memory per node also varies. You don't need to memorize these numbers, but what's important to keep in mind is that depending on how much resources you request, your jobs might be limited to certain nodes. For example, if you submit a job that requests 200 gigabytes of memory, your jobs will be restricted to the Quest 11s, which is a small fraction of the total nodes. This might result in longer waiting time. So if you happen to request 150 gigabytes of memory, this will free your job up to all the available nodes at Quest, for example. On top of the regular compute nodes, we have some high resource nodes that might address your special computational needs. We have some GPU nodes, each equipped with 2 GPUs and 52 CPUs. And we have some high memory nodes, which can provide between 0.5 and 1.5 terabytes of memory per node. So between the regular compute nodes, the GPU nodes, and the high memory nodes, we are able to cater to a diverse range of computational needs at Northwestern. All right, so now that we've covered everything that we need to in section 2, let's try to drive home some of the points that we talked about through a live demonstration. Okay, so here I just opened my terminal on my local computer, and the first thing that we want to do is to log into Quest. Now, there's actually a few different ways that you can log into Quest, and we have a separate YouTube video describing how to log into Quest in each of those ways. So I'll put that link in the description of this video, but for the purpose of this video, I'll be using the method called SSH. So to log into Quest through SSH, you go to your terminal and you type SSH space your NetID. So here I'll be using the Quest demo account at quest.it.northwestern.edu. When we hit enter, it will ask for our NetID password. Type our password, hit enter, and we will see this message being printed on our terminal. So here we see loud and clear that we are now on Quest. And this message of the day will include things like information about downtime and the email address that you can reach us at. But really, the way that I know that I'm currently on Quest is by looking at my prompt. So here we have the account name that we're using right now. So you will see your own NetID here. And we see that we are on Q user 34. So in the video, I mentioned that there are 4 different login nodes that you can land on. And the names of those login nodes are Q user 31, 32, 33, and 34. So we can see here that we landed on Q user 34. If you need to jump between different login nodes for any reason, we are also able to do that using the SSH command. So let's try jumping to Q user 31, and we'll be directed to Q user 31. All right, so another thing that I wanted to show you here is the point that I mentioned in the presentation about how all the login nodes are being shared by many, many users at any given moment. So I'm going to run a quick command here. You don't need to worry about the details of the command, but basically this command helps me see how many people are currently logged into Q user 31 at this given moment. So hit enter. And we see that there are 97 people on this login node right now. So in my experience, I have seen that during regular work hours, there's anywhere between like 80 or so to 110, or maybe sometimes 120 people sharing each login node. So this is nice to keep in mind that if all these people, say 100 people, did some kind of crazy download on a given login node simultaneously, then things can start to break. So this is always good to keep in mind that when you're on a login node, you're sharing the network and resources with about 100 or so people. That concludes the second section of our Intro to Quest video series. I hope you got a nice idea of how to interact with Quest through the login nodes and the scheduler, as well as what types of compute nodes that are available at Quest. And I hope the live demonstration gave you a nice idea of what that might look like on the user's end. In the next section of this video series, I will be talking about how you can navigate the file system on Quest. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.